are building. We are building. We are building. What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Joe Daniels, host of the Build Community Through Love podcast, where we highlight efforts and strategies used to empower and grow community through economic development, community development, and education. I'm so excited today for episode number 12. We have a good friend of mine, dear friend of mine. She went to A&T, Aggie Pride. Her name is Britney Epps. She also goes by Nerd Wonder. Talk a little bit about that once we get into the show. But not only that, Britney is a sneaker connoisseur. But check this out. Not only does she love fashion, but y'all, she is a software engineer. Now, I think that's the dopest thing ever. Linking the two, you know what I'm saying? She's a coder. She's a software engineer. She's a software developer. But she's a sneakerhead, y'all, sneaker connoisseur. You guys have to check her out. All right, so real quick, let me just read a little bit about her. She is a software engineer for a unicorn startup. In her role at this startup, she develops innovative architectural designs and technical solutions for upcoming features to the e-commerce platform. Britney has been thriving in the STEM industry for over 9 years, holding a BS in computer science from the one and only the illustrious North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride, and a MS in computer science from the University of Cincinnati. Beyond advancing her coding skills, Britney is an entrepreneur and an educator. She's always pushing Black business, always pushing business in general, but of course, you know, she's highlighting and really trying to promote the development and the expansion of Black-owned businesses. To continue, when she isn't partaking in new business ventures, she's giving back to her community by teaching coding and design classes to Detroit's youth or shopping for sneakers. Like I said, Josh, she is a sneaker connoisseur. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. We are building. We are building. We are building. We are here today with Britney Epps.
What up, though?
A.k.a. Nerd Wonder. So let everybody who's listening right now know a little bit more about you.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. What's up, y'all? So Britney Epps, a.k.a. Nerd Wonder. If you follow me on Instagram, nerdstar_101. Yeah, software developer by day. Also by night, I tend to pick up those parts of being a software developer, even in my other ventures. A big STEM educator. So right now I'm located in Detroit for the past couple of years. So really been building roots here, you know, trying to understand the education woes of kids that look like me and how I can help them to get to where they want to be and understand everything that's out there. So other things, of course, have a couple of ventures, one with my husband, Jared. So we help minority businesses get highlighted, get off the ground, get moving within their communities. So we host pop-ups, we do services such as like helping them with ideations, helping them with images, as well as meetups and stuff, just to share knowledge, get the mastermind community flowing amongst the African American community. We also have another idea we're working on. I'm actually not going to name drop that. I was messed up. But I'll make sure that I post that later on. And then of course, I'm a big sneakerhead. That's probably another like 50% of my life is dealing with sneakers. I'm actually even working on something. I know, right? It's crazy. It's like, yeah, this engineer, tech person, blah, blah. Also sneakers. That's one of my major vices besides tech. So even educating people around sneakers, you know, the history of them, the what to buy, where to find things, stuff like that. So that's me.
That's what's up. First, I want to know, where does Nerd Wonder come from? How did it start? Did you coin it? Did someone give it to you? Like what's the origination?
That's real. So like, I can't even tell you exactly where it came into play. Cause I've been Nerd Star on like Instagram when I had a Twitter, stuff like that. I've been Nerd Star since college. I want to say like after my sophomore year, I changed it from something else that I'm not gonna say right now because I was a kid saying stupid stuff. So my name it's not appropriate for now and for like the grown person that I am over 30. But so like I've been Nerd Star for a good, like, well, I've graduated college almost 10 years ago, so at least almost 10 years. And Nerd Wonder kind of came somewhere in between that and just something more I've leaned more in as of like the last year or so as I'm building more of my personal brand away from like what Britney Epps does as far as being a software developer and things like that. And just, something, nice little coin I use. I have it on notebooks and stuff. I always tell people, like, I love owning the term nerd because that is what I am. And growing up, it's always like, oh, you're a nerd and stuff like that. That's not taken great. So I was like, nah, like, I'm a nerd. Like, I am a nerd. I'm as nerdy as it comes, but I like to think I bring a little cool little addition to it as well. So yeah, I can't even tell you where it came from. Just something I like and just kept running with.
Dope. So let's go. I'm shooting right to the 50%
Mm.
of what you like and what you're running with, shooting straight to it. So sneakers, okay? Some people, they just wear it for comfort. You know what I'm saying? Like some folks go ahead and this is no knock to folks who buy shoes from Walmart. You know what I'm saying? But, some
For real.
folks just get it because they got to get the $9.99. So some folks are worried about price. Some folks are worried about just basic comfort, but don't mind stepping in a puddle.
Yeah.
Some folks like style, but then the nerd wonder is all about the soul. So,
oh yeah. Oh.
talk about that love for sneakers. And actually, I'm gonna steal a line from Brown Sugar. When did you first fall in love with sneakers?
Oh, that's a good one. I now feel like I also want to write a blog titled that, so I'm gonna have to give you credit on that one. But yeah, no, I first fell in love honestly 3rd grade. Like I even remember the sneaker, and it's like, of course I was wearing shoes before then, like clearly, but I can't remember any sneaker I had before like this particular moment, and it was a pair of Jordan 13s. Like, so of course we grew up in the whole 90s era. 96, 97, 98, we're talking second three-peat, heavy, like, okay, he's probably leaving the game after this. Like, I remember the atmosphere. I remember sitting on the couch with my grandfather, my stepdad, like, it was the Bulls. I was in Charlotte, and it was still the Bulls, right? And so, like, my stepdad and my baby brother had some Jordans they had grabbed, and I was like, oh, I really want some. So my grandma was like, all right, cool, we're going to get you exactly what they got. I'm like, great. We hit, like, 2 sneaker stores. And we couldn't find them. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, look, Britt, we got one good one, which now that I think about it, my grandma was so generous back then to even like allow me multiples. Because I remember by the last one, she was definitely like, look, you either going to get these Adidas shell toes or you going to grab these Jordans. And the Jordans that I ended up grabbing weren't even the same as them. They end up actually being the playoff Jordans that dropped in 1998. So March 1998. Somebody date check me on that one, but I'm pretty sure. So he had some playoff Jordans. They're all black leather, had the red trim at the bottom. The 13s have the bubble on the side. It's like a little hologram. And back then, holograms, you're like, oh, like this is special. This is special technology in 97, 98, right? So yeah, no, I remember grabbing them, and my mom was like, all right, like, don't get them dirty and stuff. I'm like, oh, these special. Like, they sat underneath my bed in the box. Like my outfit right the next day, like, all right, I'm about to kill him. And I remember killing it. Like, I really do remember walking down the hall, 3rd grade, going to class and I was a tomboy, so I was already hanging with the guys, playing basketball and stuff. And all the guys are just like, yo, like, look at Britney's feet. And like, I'm not even gonna front. I enjoy hearing that. Like, I even now, like, I know because of like how big I've gotten into sneakers and stuff, and people who know me knowing that, most of the time when I walk in a room, the first thing people look at are my sneakers. Like, what sneakers? So like it was really then I'm like, oh, okay, like I like sneakers. My mom told me to keep them safe, told me not to play in them so that I know they're special. And then I was like, oh nah, like these stay clean, no crease. Like that was really me getting into like no creases and stuff. So after that, it's Forces, it's Timbs and stuff like that. So that one sneaker just kicked off my love, and it's been a battle. I'm gonna be honest. Like, it's real hard right now to be a sneakerhead. Like, I talk to a lot of people about it. Like, sneakerhead is not the market that you see now. Like these Yeezys are 500. Oh, these Jordans are 600-700. Like that. It would be a little difficult, but not really. You just had to stand in line for maybe an hour or two. Now people will stand in line for like hours, camp out and stuff. But you stand in line for an hour or two, wake up that morning, maybe like 6:30. be in line by 7, stores open by 9, you're in line, you grab your kicks, you go home, you get your outfit ready for Monday. Now it's like you sit here with a computer, you hope bots don't steal it, you hope resellers who don't even care about the sneaker don't steal it. And you just hope you get it and you're not having to pay resale for a sneaker that you really wanted. It's different now. It's different, but no, my love is still there, still looking to bring other people to it. So yeah.
That's real, because I swear, like once a month, it's another drop. I'm like, dang. And you know, I do get kind of jealous because I'm like, man, I'm trying to match the heck out of these shirts I got. So tell me about the latest acquisition that you got, why you got it, and how you about to style it.
So crazy crap is I actually have them right here, like not even on any plan stuff. So I mean, this is audio, so you'll see them. Maybe we'll drop some pics. But so yeah, so I went and caught some felines. So I've been really getting into the past couple of years, like everything coordinating, like not like, oh, I need to match head to toe, but just like a great array of colors that go together, that flow well together, right? That bring a good energy, good vibe. So I've been working on like different photo concepts and stuff like that. I did a vintage shoot a couple weeks ago with some old Reeboks that dropped in 1985. And so yeah, I'm in Detroit. Somebody was like, "Yo, Grant Hill just dropped some new kicks with Fila." If you don't know the history of Fila, it's super interesting. It's actually an Italian brand. So Fila actually started off as a high fashion Italian brand that, of course, hip hop started taking over, you know, as the rise of the 80s and 90s, fashion in New York with your Dapper Dans and stuff like that. And so like they bet a lot of money on Grant Hill being their player to get felines off, just like Jordan with Nike, and it just didn't take off. Grant Hill, great player, but we're not talking like personalities like Allen Iverson, like the Shaquille, like those people whose sneakers like go on and do these things, like Questions by Reebok, they still make them. Allen ain't played in years and they still sell out. So like the Grant Hill just wasn't the super best bet for them. So Fila didn't do too well, but they decided to bring this out. So I had to cop. And then right after I copped this, I went to eBay, grabbed me an old Pistons Grant Hill jersey, same color scheme. So the teal, the red, the yellow, the black. And so yeah, I'm gonna do a shoot with them around Detroit in a couple of weeks. As I'm taking a break in between jobs and stuff, I'm gonna spend some time playing around with that. But that's been my new thing now: retro kicks, and then trying to find like retro stuff to go with them, like the vintage, and not spend a whole bunch of money on a jersey, but like something slightly used. You know, have fun with it.
And then the whole new age shorts with like the brand on the front of it. I'm feeling the vibe. Like I'm enjoying
Yeah.
it. I'm enjoying, like, you know, just seeing the energy, you know, the whole brain genius that you're putting. Because I mean, it's a new creativity, right? Like there's people who DIY their own brand in their own fashion, but like the creativity, the economics behind it, right? Like I'm sure you're not dropping retail dollars for all these shoes. So I mean, there's
Yeah.
research that goes behind this. Like you're using all of your skills to acquire this passion of yours to really make this thing rock. I'm vibing. I'm vibing. I was going to ask you another question, but we, you know, because I was intrigued, but that's going to go down a rabbit hole that we may not be able to get out of. So I'm gonna let that question rock. But I was fortunate enough to see. I don't know if it was a documentary or not. It may have been a documentary that just came out, because they're doing mad sports documentaries while there's no, you know, there's not a whole bunch of sports going on right now.
Yeah.
And I got to see your idol Tinker, and they talked about him and how, you know, he's come up and made these shoes. So in preparation for today, I got to go to your YouTube channel. Everybody go check it out. And you talk about how Tinker infused like tech and fashion into the making of Air Max. And I don't want to get into that because that's a question for like probably in the next 20 minutes. But I want this to be a cool segue. How are you now using tech and your passions and infusing them together to now bring that and introduce and teach this culture of brilliance to the kids in Detroit? teaching STEM, teaching coding, but under the umbrella of, you know, our culture, our love for all these different things?
Yeah, so like it's crazy because I didn't realize I was doing it probably until about halfway through. Because the way I looked at it, I was like, look, I'm gonna bring my authentic self to the classroom. Like when I'm gonna stand in front of 20, 30 kids, now it's on Zoom usually, but still like 30, 40 kids. I'm like, when I'm gonna stand in front of them, I'm gonna be my authentic self. Like that's the only way I could see this working. Like because technically speaking, I don't have like a teacher background per se. Like it's something I picked up when I was at A&T, being a supplemental instructor. And I just continued on with it. So not traditional training. So I'm like, what can I bring that would be different? That would I feel like would add value, and it's just bringing my authentic self. Now my authentic self is sneakers, and kids tend to like sneakers. Like, and for us to try to like, I've worked with organizations. They're like, oh, let's stay away from like rap music and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, you know, there are rappers out here who have their hands in a lot of different investments as far as tech is concerned. Like instead of like staying away from those things that you feel like are taking our kids' values away, like, oh, they're spending money on material things, like caring about sneakers and stuff. I'm like, use that as a boat to lean into them, like to get to them in the best way possible. So it really started a couple years ago. I was teaching a summer camp, and I can't remember the first pair I wore that week, but a whole bunch of the kids said something. So I was like, you know what? Every day I am going to wear a different pair of sneakers. Every day for 2 weeks, I'm gonna wear a completely different pair. You want to see the pair, you gotta show up. It was just that simple. Even when they were walking in to sign up, it was, what shoes does Miss Brittany have on right now? Like if that's what it takes just to get you to the next part and be like, all right, now you have this person who you consider to be relatable and stuff in front of you. They wear some kicks you like. Maybe eventually you start actually listening to what they're saying, and you start understanding like, oh, I can like this and still go and be smart. Like I can go and be that nerd, but I dress like this, or I have sneakers or whatever. Like there are just so many different people I can be and still be interested in STEM, and it doesn't take away from those different things. And so like I realized even the people I started teaching with, I would find myself like this one engineer I teach a lot with. She has a pop-up series, so she does a lot of dance for like fitness and stuff. And she'll bring a lot of that to what we do with kids and make sure they get 10, 15 minutes of like moving around. And she's very adamant, like, look, I'm a math teacher, I'm an engineer, I also love dance. Like these are all these different pieces of me. And look, like I'm an engineer. Like I know this is not what, like when you look at TV and things like that growing up, if you don't know engineers, this is not what you imagine an engineer to be. So I'm like, let me just meet kids where they are, because sneakers are Black culture. Like, and you can put the other way around. Like like sneakers are Black culture. Like we, for more or less, like I don't, the rise of Nike, the rise like can be contributed to African American athletes. Like the rise of super brands, honestly, even like your high end fashions being a part of like American culture can be contributed to Black people, hip hop, things like that. So I'm like, this is culture. Like we're just appreciating who we are and understanding that there's a lot of different images to still be what we want to be. And so like I'm like, if kids like the sneakers, then cool. Like I said, I'll bring the sneakers in. I usually show off now virtually. I'll bring like a couple pairs down. Be like, all right, first things first, get to know me. I love Harry Potter, love anime, also love sneakers. Guess what? I code. Like I've been coding for 15 years or whatever. And so like it's so, oh, cool. I promise you, after that, if not all kids, at least a good 20 to 30% who weren't going to listen beforehand are now listening. And now, all right, cool. I showed y'all that passion of sneakers. Now let me show you my passion of teaching and of coding. And so like, it's just been a joy. I'm actually working with someone right now to build a program called Code and Kicks, with the Foot Locker staple, that we have here in Detroit. We have like this massive, city Foot Locker. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Like they only have them in like select cities. So trying to figure out how to like show kids like imagining code and sneakers and stuff. So it's just, like I said, like it's just meeting kids where they are, like showing them different parts of the culture, understanding it's still all a part of the culture. And you can be a lot of different things at the same time.
Yeah. So from what you're saying, it sounds more like you're giving kids permission to be their authentic self.
Yeah.
And still show up and be present and learn, cool things, learn coding. And I mean, and it sounds like, it's not fun because a lot of kids have never been given permission, to be a coder, because when they see coding, they don't see you. And so you're pretty much saying, I see, me as a kid in Detroit, I see myself when I see you, but I don't see the coder you. I see who you are because it resembles who I am. And the fact now that you're telling me that you also code, it feels like it's not giving me permission, because I'm not like some old white guy who's trying to, force me to learn code. It's like, it's my kinfolk who looks just like me, and it's going to be who I am in the next 10 years. Like I want that. Like, I'm not trying to have to give up my sneakers for a suit and tie or for a blouse and heels. I want to be able to rock out and still be cool and still be hip and still be able to be me, but still add value to the world through an expertise like coding. And so what challenges are you seeing right now? Because typically when you say Detroit, for a lot of people, it's kind of a code word for poor, for people who don't care. The housing market sucks. The city filed for bankruptcy several years ago. And so there's kind of a negative connotation when people say Detroit. And so what challenges are you seeing? And then after you answer the challenges, what value are you adding to continue to build and change that narrative?
Most definitely. So, I mean, that major challenge being just the disparity of education between socioeconomics. Like, I was the STEM board for my previous company that I used to work at. And so, like, we would go into that surrounding community, which is about 45 minutes away from Detroit, and go teach and things like that. And just like those kids, like, you say things and they know what you're talking about. Like, they're like, oh yeah, like my parents have done this or stuff like that. Where like I go into like a room in Detroit or what have you, and you don't get that. Like, kids are like, oh, I've never heard this term like a day in my life. Like, the exposure at different ages is different. Sometimes like like I had to start remembering the privileges that I have, and check myself. Like, everybody doesn't have internet at home. Everybody doesn't have a computer at home. And like, it's so easy to get into that, hey, just go like look it up. Like, oh, I need y'all to go do this at home. And then you start getting the kids who like, wait, I can't do that at home. I can try to go to the library or things like that. Or, hey, my parents don't have the ability to help me or things like that. Or even just like, sometimes just the ability to be able to show up consistently is not an ability for some of these kids. Like, hey, my mom doesn't have a ride to drop me off today, so I can't come. I got that a few times while teaching some coding clubs at a couple different elementary schools. And it's just like trying to remember that and be like, okay, I understand that there are these constraints in your life. Let me figure out how I can still expose you to this even with that, right? So like, we went into one of the organizations that I'm the coding director for. Like, we went and found like laptops that we could bring. So like, great, you can't come to the laptop, we have one for you. Like, we have that ability now to get you in front, to get you used to using a computer, even if you don't have one at home. Like, just even like the small things we don't necessarily think about, like creating a folder, copy and pasting. Like, if you don't do that on a regular, if that's not a part of your day to day, you don't know how to do that. And so like, I've worked with high school kids, and I'm having to go to what I at least consider for computers, like, all right, this is how you find an application on your computer. Like, these are the things. So like, just trying to build that gap and bridge that gap there. And then just constant exposure. Like, all right, great, I have you here for coding. Let's look at something else now. Like, when I was doing a couple different coding clubs, I would introduce them to a different technology that would be outside of coding every day. So I'm like, great, I want you to know coding, but I'm more concerned about you understanding all the different things that are out there that are available to you that you can become. We don't realize it, or maybe we do, and I just didn't realize it till late. Representation is it's just everything. Like, it's everything. Like, you talked about like kids not seeing other developers like that look like me. So like, every time I start off with a class, I'm like, hey, by the end of this class, you can consider yourself a developer. Like, you were a developer, add it to your resume, go tell your parents. I make a joke about, like, you can't go get a job to help out, but still, like, you are a developer. Add that to the things that you call yourself. And then, like, just realizing after the fact, like, talking to parents and stuff, and it's like, you don't understand, my kid didn't like computers. And now you're telling them they're a developer, so they're showing me different stuff on the computers all of a sudden. And it's just confidence and things like that. Like you said, once you break down that shield of not having to be somebody else and being able to come something authentically yourself, then you can worry about the real things that you need to worry about. Like, do I understand this? Not how does this look to everybody else and things like that. Do I understand it? Am I getting the benefit out of it? So as far as what I try to do in Detroit, it's just, honestly, it's be seen as much as possible teaching. I do STEM panels. I work with African American Museum here. I work with the Michigan Science Center here, doing a few different things. I'm hosting a virtual pajama event for about 40 young girls a couple Fridays from now. In the evening, we're gonna have like a DJ and stuff like that. Like, just a nice little mix of, okay, we're coding. All right, we're jamming. Okay, we're coding. And it's just like constantly making sure I'm putting it myself in that position to share my passion. Like, I really am just as passionate for development as I am for sneakers. I might actually be a little bit more, which don't tell my sneakers. But like, I really try to bring both to the table and try to make it like, all right, you see me. Like, you can't say, I don't know, blah, blah. No, you see me. I am very everywhere. Like, I really try to be like absolutely everywhere. And just try to bring that passion and be like, all right, I understand your constraints and stuff. Let's talk about it. Let's understand. Let's get to a point where I can give you something that kind of, forget all of that stuff. What can I give you that will help you grow, even with, what you have available to you? And that's really just been the biggest thing in Detroit, is just understanding that and then how to work within it.
So you're building kids to grow up to believe that they're unstoppable.
Most definitely.
That they are unstoppable.
Most
So
definitely. We got to start.
Oh, go ahead.
I said we got to start then. You got to start as kids. Otherwise, it's a whole different battle trying to convince yourself of that as an adult.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we're about to move into the segment called Take Me Into Your Classroom. This segment is to take a deep dive into a project that you're really working on, something that you're working on, and let's get, deep into the weeds so we can understand what it is and what you're doing. So like I said, you're building the confidence of children so that they can become unstoppable in whatever they take. And the cool thing about that is you are a part of the creation of the Unstoppable Movement. The Unstoppable Movement. I have merch. You know what I'm saying? I got my Juneteenth merch of the Unstoppable Movement. And so, first of all, tell everybody, what is the Unstoppable Movement?
Yeah, so the Unstoppable Movement is a space, really, that me and my husband wanted to build and grow, because it was a space that we needed like years and years ago. Like, ever since college, I've been in this cycle of creating, of having ideas, creating businesses around those ideas, and then growing them to fruition, or maybe like, all right, I learned something from this, pass it to the side, go to the next one. And so we just realized everything that we've learned over the past couple of years, it'd be better if we could just talk about it with other people. And we were already having those conversations at our home. Like, I remember a couple of Saturdays, people would come with laptops and we would say like, all right, this is how you register your business in the state of Michigan. Like, these are the things you need to look at if you're really talking about trademarks and things like that. So we were just like, why not open that platform even more? And see if we can reach even more Black entrepreneurs, really. So that's really what Unstoppable Movement is. Really, just like I said, trying to build a community, a mastermind community within the African American community of entrepreneurs, trying to help people. Hey, you have an idea, great. What's the cheapest way for you to get your idea out and show proof that it can work? And then how do you grow that with what you have available to you? And then how can we help you get spotlighted and highlighted throughout your community, so people know, like, oh, this person makes soaps and stuff. Now you know a Black-owned soap maker. Like, how do we start plugging in those gaps and helping people find each other for those things that we feel like we have to go outside of our community to get, because we don't think anybody inside our community offers it? That's more or less what Unstoppable is. And honestly, it really started off as something that me and Jared needed for ourselves. And then we're like, well, if we need this, everybody else probably does too. Which is usually how a lot of ideas start off. Anyways, you think about what you need and you try to figure that out and then see if it can be applied to more people.
No, it's real. And I think there's a project that you guys have that you put on. It's called, what is it called? Startup Woes and Flows.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? I mean, that sounds super intriguing. Like, take me to an actual, like the actual event itself.
Yeah, so before everything happened, we were doing this in Black-owned coffee shops around
Hmm.
Detroit. Now, one thing that, bringing it virtually did open up was the ability for other people to join that weren't in Detroit. And that's been great as well. But usually, if we were in a coffee shop in Detroit, one, we make sure that everybody patrons the business. Like we're already doing one thing by making sure that we're circulating that African American dollar at a coffee shop, at a Black-owned coffee shop. So that would be the thing. Everybody introduces themselves, talk about their idea, brief description of their business if they have one, or their idea, and then we really talk about what are your wins. So it's super easy to focus on the things that you feel like you don't hit
Mm.
first, but like, what are your flows? Like, what are those things where you're like, yo, I did this or this happened for my business, and it was the best possible thing for my business or for me personally or whatever. Like, what do you feel like are those things that have you on the right path? And then woes just being like, all right, so what are those things that you feel like you need to work on? And then when we're talking about those, that's really when we look to have a lot of community sharing, because the thing is, like, I try to get into a place. I feel like the smartest people learn not only from their mistakes, but also from the mistakes of others.
Mm.
And so I love hearing the stories, and like, all right, like this person did this, lost $1 million, then they came back and did this and gained. Like, I love those stories, so I can figure out what not to do on my end before I actually have to go and not do it and suffer. So like, we really look to like, all right, so you have this particular problem as far as like understanding your target audience. Let's talk about like how other people have figured out ways to figure out, who their target audience is, in the process around that. So using those woes to like really get into a mastermind community type of sharing, where we can leverage each other's experiences to grow our own businesses. So we do that, and then we usually end with a goal by the end of the week, or a challenge, like, hey, challenge yourself to create some type of content that you've been hesitant about creating. Like, a lot of what I hear from other people, especially in the social media age, is like, well, I took these pictures, I wanted to post them, but it didn't feel like the right time, or I posted it, it didn't get the response I thought, so now I'm not going to do that ever again.
Yeah.
Things like that. And it's just like, you have to let something live a little bit longer than the couple of seconds, that you put it up. And you have to understand that each thing is like a path to getting to the bigger part. Like, you don't start off with 100 likes. You probably start off with 5, and then you grow from there. So really just trying to leverage each other's experiences and grow.
How do you build this type of community that you're in now? Like, do you find people and invite them? They find you and want to join? Like, how has this thing, I guess, developed organically over time?
So, as always, the cheapest marketing is word of mouth. And that's really how we've just grown this business in general. Me and Jared have a great network, that we've grown from A&T and outside. I lived in Cincinnati for a few years, and then now being in Detroit, we have a great network here. So it really is a lot of word of mouth, and people maybe already following us, already following the Unstoppable movement on Instagram, and seeing those posts up, or just having conversations with us and being like, oh, that's something I like to check out, and then being a return person to that event happens as well. So it really is just that word of mouth, getting it out there. Now, when we do like our pop-up series where we're looking for vendors and things like that, we more so go to like community forums and other organizations, that probably have what we're looking for as far as like entrepreneurs who are selling things within that city. But for the most part, yeah, just word of mouth.
So then why is it so important that, we as a community support our own Black owned businesses? And then, why is it important for us to highlight the successes and even some of the, I don't really want to call them failures, but lesson learns from Black business owners?
Yeah. I mean, just because we have to, there's so many like stigmas around Black owned businesses that we've got to get away from so that they can succeed. Like we should have more numbers, honestly, is at the end of the day what it really is. Like I live in Detroit. And so like you go to the different neighborhoods and stuff where, you know, people of other nationalities own the things that are in our neighborhoods. Like, and then we need to reach out to them to receive jobs and things like that. So why not cut out the middleman? Now why not create the environments and the spaces where we can hire, and we can make sure that we are given the opportunities because we're giving ourselves those opportunities. That's the really like the big thing with everything. It's just making sure that we have to circulate. We have to understand that value. Other ethnicities, other cultures understand it. That's why you see your Chinatowns and things like that, where these people come together and build a community and make sure that they can employ each other. Like when I go to other parts of Detroit, like you'll see the language, you'll see like signs change into different languages and things like that. You'll see the people that work there. Like I remember being in LA and going to, I want to say it's Koreatown, and like we're going to a Korean hot pot place, and everybody works there is more or less a Korean or of Asian descent, and like because they employ themselves, like they build those opportunities, and we always are trying to find opportunities. So why not get into a place where we can start building it? We can start hiring ourselves, and hiring those who we know are qualified, but because of everything else going on, just haven't been given the opportunity. I don't know. I'm in the process of like trying to find solutions. We got a lot of stuff going on as far as just like a people, and I'm just like, where can we build solutions at? Where can we really start building these pipelines that we know we need in order to a certain extent have our own. The wealth gap between cultures is it's too damn big, and our growth as far as a people is just not up to where it should be as far as everybody else is concerned, and how they've been able to grow over the past generation. So I'm like, what can we do? We gotta do something.
No, for sure. So I'm in the desk now. Walk up to either the chalkboard, dry erase, whatever you want to deal with it, however you want to call it. What are the top 5 mistakes that people should avoid when trying to start a business?
Cool. All right, top five, top five, top five. All right, so we're gonna go numbers. Okay, so I'm not putting these in numbers, just top 5 things in general. One, like understand who your audience is, like, and then understand your percentage of that particular market. I definitely would say is a big one. A lot of people don't necessarily understand who they're creating it for, and you can be like, oh, I'm doing this for a teacher, or say like maybe you're building a solution on that. But unless you've talked to teachers and like really gotten their input and things like that, you're not really building a solution for them. You're building a solution for yourself. So really understanding your target audience is probably going to save you a lot of pain down the line. Actually, I will rank this one. This one's going to be number 1. So the next one is the next one that I want to actually make like the number 1 is you don't need a lot of money to start something. I feel like a lot of people think like, oh, like I need to like run up a credit card or things like that to get a business off the ground, or drain my savings or things like that. I mean, if you have the savings and stuff, great. But like even then, you want to limit the amount of money that you put in for that first product that you get out, right? That MVP, right? Not most valuable, but minimal viable product, right? Like what can you get out there quickly so that you don't lose the momentum of like wanting to do something like that. That initial motivation is never going to be stronger until you, of course, start seeing things like progress and stuff. But until you get there, you got to go off that I really want to do this type energy, right? So like, what can you do to use all of that energy and not use all of your account to get something out that you can say, all right, this works. Now let me go to the next thing. Like people don't, actually, I guess this goes into my next one. People don't drop 20 products and say, I really hope everything takes off. Like make sure that you focus yourself. One of my pitfalls on a regular is that I dream super, super big. I want to do everything right then and there. And I've had to learn over the course of different businesses that I've learned from, that I've had or been a part of, that it really is a lot of value in focus. and bringing everything together. So if you're trying to drop a lot of products, start off with like a 2 or 3 type range at the most, and get those out there. Get the generation going. Understand your customer. That'll help you get a better profile, so you can say, all right, my next product I can drop with research numbers now, right? I can drop and say, well, customers told me 33% wanted this color, 5%. Like you have data to back that up. 1, 2, 3. I think I'm at 4, even though I might be at 5. So 4. Ooh, this one. Let's see. I'm trying to decide. So, okay. So 4 is build a team, and it may not be your friends. Definitely be very careful with leveraging friends and things that have particular skills. Yes, they may be great at those skills. They just may not be great at those skills the way you want them to, and the way you want your business to go. So definitely be wary of that. I try to keep those relationships sometimes separate. If I see like we've worked together previously well, then I'll bring it up. And I do have a few people like I'm always like, hey, I got an idea. What you think? So making sure. Oh, and actually, so then the last one from that one is have you a personal board of directors. Like, if you can have a mentor, have a mentor. If you can have a couple people as a sounding board, that will probably give you somewhat biased opinions because they know you, but will tell you the no when you need to. Build that around you sooner than later. I feel like a lot of my beginning of my career, I did everything in a tunnel. I went off of what I knew and things like that, which is great, except you can't get to the next phase based off of what you already know, because you'd already be there because you already know it, right? So there's more knowledge, there's different knowledge that you need for that next phase. And don't be afraid to leverage people, and especially your board of directors to help you get there and to kind of to guide you and tell you like, nah, that don't make any sense. And sometimes when people say that, you'd be like, all right, you don't see the vision yet, that's cool, but a lot of times you may just need to be like, all right, let me sit back, let me think, and let me make sure that everything is adding up, or before I die on this hill, and let me maneuver myself and put myself in a better position. I feel like I have a lot more than 5 to drop, but I'm gonna go with those
I like that. That's very valuable, especially the one about building a team, because
5. Do it.
Working by yourself, man, I can tell you from being in school for over 20 years, working by yourself is only an academic feature. It's not an entrepreneurial or business feature. It's just an academic feature, because you can work in a group, but if the group sucks, you'll get a bad grade. I understand that from being an academic, but when you get out in the real world, you need to be in a space where you're valuing other people's gifts and time. Because I mean, if you're trailing by yourself, you're never gonna get nowhere because it just takes too long. And then it gets to what you said at the beginning, like that burnout phase can be a lot if you put all this stuff in, you're not seeing any returns. So thank you. Well, I appreciate it for allowing me to be inside your classroom. I appreciate it. It had AC in there too, so I'm real thankful. Real thankful. All right, so we're gonna move on to the segment called 100 Cups of Coffee. This was a project I did in 2019 where I tried to sit down and have cups of coffee with 100 people. This was a way of just building relationships and not having an ask. When you're trying to build relationships and there's an ask involved, it kind of taints the whole relationship building, because I'm only there because I want something from you. But being able to just say, I just want to sit down and get to know who you are, to understand like, what does Nerd Wonder really mean? And so those are just some cool things that you get to have when you're sitting down and having coffee. But the other cool thing is you get to learn some cool things about folks that you would never have learned if you're only in a business environment. So in this segment, I get to ask you a couple questions off the dome, just to learn a little bit more about you and just to kind of see what's going on. So you said Air Maxes were your favorite over the Jordan brand. So if that is true, what is your all-time favorite shoe as of 2020?
All right, so my all-time favorite shoe is a Jordan 1. It's a off-white, the UNC off-white Jordan 1s. It's my favorite all-time shoe, even though it just dropped 2 years ago. But it's the pinnacle of a lot of different things. The Tinker Hatfield of the Jordan 1, of Virgil, even though he been acting funky the past couple months. just being a Black designer, in a very much so, crazy enough, a white designer space. Like even with sneakers, it's still very much so white. So yeah, so that's my favorite shoe right now.
Ooh. Ooh, okay. Now,
You see it?
what's your favorite color wave right now? It doesn't have to be all time, just right now. What's your favorite colorway?
Mm. It's just so cliche. Must I bread? Like you just any bread Jordan is just like it's top notch. Like for real, for real. Any bread colorway works.
Nice. Nice. Okay, we're gonna move away from sneakers. Uh, what is your most rewarding moment when teaching STEM to children in Detroit?
My most rewarding moment is when I had a repeat kid in two of my workshops I did for website development. And by the second time that he came to class, I actually let him start teaching. He was 10 years old. I let him start teaching some of the parts of website development to the other kids. And that's something I kind of want to go more towards, teaching kids to a point where they can teach others. Because while I try to be as relatable as possible, there's nothing more relatable than somebody exactly your age explaining something to you. So yeah, that's been my most rewarding, just seeing him get up there and teach and being like, I taught him that and now he's teaching them that. Like that's why I do this.
That's powerful. That's what's up. Okay. What does the unstoppable movement have in the bag right now that you're allowed to tell everybody what's coming down the pipeline?
Mm, that's really hard. Actually, no, it's not. We've been talking about this for a minute, so definitely gonna implement this the second half. Book club. So just getting into particular books. I'm looking at one right now, which is literally called Building a Story Brand. So this got recommended to me, and I tend to like just tell people what I'm reading, and we tend to eventually read it together. So we were just like, why not turn it into like a formal thing, have book club meetings and things like that. So be on the lookout for that. Entrepreneur Book Club, just trying to grow everybody's knowledge together, discuss it, and figure out what works for our businesses.
Dope. Last question. What's the one thing that you learned about yourself during COVID-19 and during quarantine?
That I can do. This is gonna sound so cliche, but it's so real. That I can do a lot of different things. But if it's like learning how to build things around the house, like we built a bar outside, and I realized halfway through that we built a cabinet and a table, and I was like, wait a second, if we can we open up a furniture business? I'm not opening up a furniture business yet. I keep. It's funny because as soon as it happened, Jared looks at me and goes, "Are we gonna make? No, we're not making anything else into any more businesses just yet." So that, and then just like really diving into things that I've not allowed myself to be a part of. So art, like you see all the containers right there, it's all art stuff. Whether it's sneaker customizations, I've really got into over quarantine. I've been like YouTubing it like crazy, and started doing my own. So getting more so into sneaker design and things like that. Just that like I can get away from a screen and still feel happy. Has been like the one thing I've learned, which is crazy because I'm at home more. So I'm like, there's all these screens, but it's been a lot of like turn off, play some music, paint, work on some sneakers, work on some clothing, been thrifting a lot, yard sales. Yeah, it was just like really like anything you can allow yourself to be, you really can. Like I used to tell myself all the time, like, you don't like coloring, you don't like drawing, you're not good at it, like just let it go. And I just be like, all right, I'm letting it go. And then I got bored and was like, let me just try some stuff. And then found a nice hobby that I'm trying to grow some more. So being able to explore my love for sneakers in like another aspect of like really designing and playing around with colors and stuff. I don't know, just keep opening myself to different things during quarantine and see what shakes.
Dope. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you for that. We're gonna move on to our last segment. This segment is called Just a Minute.
Yeah.
Every time I open up, and I enjoy keynote speaking, I enjoy public speaking, I enjoy speaking to motivate, to encourage. And I remember when I was in high school, a guy by the name of oh man, his name is Willie Jolly. He came in, and I was in 11th grade. I remember sitting at Springbrook High School, and he came up and he said, I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in. And I'm like, oh, this is dope. Like, I like this. And so I kind of understood the origins of this quote, and like it brings a certain level of energy when I'm providing content, whether it's through a keynote speech, through some kind of public forum of some type. But I enjoy it because it allows me to intertwine that with being able to motivate, being able to encourage. And so this last segment is to give you 2+ minutes to encourage our audience, to motivate our audience, to inspire. It doesn't matter who you want to, just go ahead and provide some kind of inspirational message for those who are listening.
All right, cool. So it's crazy growing up. I feel like a lot of us were told, some of us were told we can be a lot of different things, whereas maybe we didn't necessarily hear that from other people. And so I found as we move through life, especially like our generation, the friends that some me and you share and things like that, and just in general, like we've had to do a lot of work to backtrack a lot of or some of the things that maybe we were taught in our adolescence that doesn't necessarily make sense to us now. And so honestly, my word of encouragement is just keep going through. Like I know right now we're all trying to figure out ourselves. We're trying to figure out how we can impact the world, how we can make things different so we don't have the continuous anguish that we've had, especially over the last few months with the deaths of Breonna Taylor, as well as just the past few years, dating back to at least what I can really, really remember, really sparking with Trayvon Martin. And things look a little bleak right now, but I promise there are a lot of different things that we can do as far as a people to make a change. And it really is just you trying to figure out exactly what it is that you want to do to make that change. And then just leaning into it. Don't listen to the no's. Don't listen to where there's a lot of people in that right now. And I know shout out to my entrepreneurs who are listening. A lot of us probably hear that like, nobody needs another lipstick brand. Nobody needs this, that, and the third. Well, we do. We need you. We need you to bring your authentic self to the front of the classroom. We need you to teach the world what you can bring. And we need you to lean into that authentic self even more than you may already have. Forget everything that you've been taught as a kid. Guess what? You're an adult now. I'm really big on my friends of letting those things go and learning how to move forward and learning ourselves in that process. So like I said, just bring your authentic self to the table. You're worthy. You're worthwhile. What you have matters. Make sure that you know it. Make sure everybody around you knows it. And come on, because we need you in order to move the community, in order to move our generation, in order to move our culture. We need you and your authentic self. So come on.
Nice. Keep going through. Well, thank you, the Nerd Wonder. How can people find you and stay connected?
Most def. So best place, as always, is Instagram. So Nerdstar, just spelled as is, NERDSTAR. I think I'll make that a song now. _101. So hit me up on Instagram. I answer DMs. I do all that stuff. Also, I have an email that I can't remember at this moment, but I'm pretty sure it's the Nerdstar101 @gmail. So feel free to email me there. As well. I have a Twitter. I'm barely on there. Don't hit that. That's pointless. I've been sitting on the website for a minute, but I haven't done anything with it, but it is BritneyLEpps.com. So maybe I'll start playing around with those during quarantine to build those out a little bit more. But yeah, Instagram's your best bet. Have a podcast called Human Blacks Out, so check that out. Joey, I need you on that. Yeah, that's about it.
And then for those entrepreneurs who are ready to, get into a mastermind environment, for those who want to build, continue to learn from others who have done different things for the better, for the worst, how can they get informed and into the mix of the Unstoppable movement?
Most definitely. So Instagram, The Unstoppable, MVMT, all together, no underscores. If you type The Unstop, you'll most likely find this at the top. So yeah, that as well as the unstoppablemovement.com, again, still MVMT, as well as our Eventbrite page. So you can also look on there, The Unstoppable Movement. We do a lot of free events. Most of our events are free. The only thing is to sign up to be a vendor for our pop-up series that, of course, right now we're not doing. Maybe we'll figure out a virtual way to have that. But yeah, that's the best way to find us there. DM us. We're doing Entrepreneurial Corner highlights. So highlighting different entrepreneur every few weeks. So if you would like to be highlighted, please feel free to reach out. Advocate for yourself. Like, make sure you're reaching out to places and stuff. Be like, hey, I want to be highlighted. Worst thing they can do is say no. So reach out to us. We're not going to say no. We'll just find you a date.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Britney Epps, Nerd Wonder, over and out. Thank you.
That was fun.
Thank you for listening to another episode on the Build Community Through Love podcast. Subscribe on all platforms to stay up to date with new episodes. Also, stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Build Community Through Love. And visit our website at buildcommunitythroughlove.com. Let's keep working, y'all. And if someone asks, tell them we're building.